Are you new to investing? Wondering whether or not you can self-manage your properties? Let us tell you about RentRedi. RentRedi is a really awesome property management software that can help you grow and handle every aspect of your real estate business. Rent collection, tenant screening, maintenance, lease signing, listing. Honestly, it has everything.
Yeah, how long do you think we've been using RentRedi for ourselves?
About 5 months.
Yeah, about 5 months. It's been awesome. We do use their push notification system to send notifications to tenants. We collect rent from our tenants right through the app. And we're actually about to use their new feature, their 24/7 maintenance software called Latchel. And a Latchel will allow you to remove yourself as the landlord, as the middleman between your tenants and maintenance calls. So the tenants can directly call a maintenance line, and they will dispatch contractors right to the property.
We should also mention that RentRedi is unlimited. All their plans are flat price. This essentially means you can keep adding properties to your portfolio without having to pay more. You can close on all the properties you want, and RentRedi's price stays the same. The best part is RentRedi's given us an amazing deal to pass on to our weekly Juice listeners. You guys, everyone listening, can get 50% off a RentRedi plan at rentredi.com when you use our code JuicePod. That's RentRedi.com with code JuicePod. JUICEPOD at rentredi.com, and you can get 50% off any plan.
And he loves networking.
Why you married him?
It is, because I'm definitely more of the introvert in the relationship. I'm an extroverted introvert, but Josh is an extroverted extrovert. So Josh is literally networking with everyone. He's on the social media groups. He's getting coffee with local realtors. He is, talking to investors. He's cold calling people on Facebook Marketplace. So like, if there is someone that is like responsible for our steady off-market deal flow, it's 100% Josh. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, right? So far we've only bought off-market deals. We'll probably continue to buy off-market deals just because we're not like the sexiest buyers. We're not the all cash, 50,000 over.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today we have on two very special people, Ali and Josh Lupo. They are a married couple living in upstate New York on the pursuit of financial independence in their 30s. They have an incredible journey of paying off debt, investing in real estate and index funds, and have an incredible 70% savings rate.
They're known as the FI couple on Instagram. They have skyrocketed their following. They started a page 5 months ago. They're at 10,000 followers, and they just consistently provide value. They have a ton of knowledge. Every nugget, boom, 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 throughout the whole episode. They were just hitting us with it.
Good people. They know their stuff. They talk about their background and not coming from much, and to establishing themselves inside of the community, building up their own community, but then also being able to tackle debt head on, start making investments just by trimming out things in life that may not seem cool to other people. I think a lot of young people should take note on this episode. And there's a lot of tactics that you can write down and start implementing in your life, just because they've seen such great success in only 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely. And not to mention that they're not sitting there saying, well, we both are 6-figure earners. And, where a lot of people think, well, that makes it a lot easier for you to save a lot of money. They both have modest jobs. They are like the American couple that is striving for FI and it's a testament to their hard work. Tune in. The whole episode is great. They drop a ton of knowledge on us, and I think there's some serious value to be taken away. So
couldn't agree more. Let's bring them in.
Cool.
Josh and Ali, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice. This has been a long time coming. It's exciting to officially meet you and share your story with our listeners.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here today and to connect with you guys.
Yeah, big fans of the show, guys. Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, thank you. So if you could give everybody a background on yourselves, who you are, where you're from, and then how you dove in or how you found out about the financial independence community.
Yeah, so Josh and I are in upstate New York. We met in 2011 in college. We went to SUNY Oneonta, which is a state school in New York. And we were friends for a long time. And then we started dating. I went back to grad school. We got married. And when we got married, we had $100,000 in student loans. And prior to that, we weren't really talking about like real estate or investing or money a lot in general. But very quickly, the reality of our situation became clear. And I think from that moment, that was when those really important money talks started happening.
Yeah, like we kind of knew we had debt, but we didn't really like know the numbers of anything. Ali was getting ready to graduate from a master's in 2017. And that's kind of when they started sending us like disclosures like, hey, just so you know, like this is the balance. And at that point, I was starting to become aware of my balance, and we were starting to tally it up, and we were like, all right, well, that's a lot of money. And we're both in human services professionals. Like Ali's a school social worker. I'm a career counselor for workers with disabilities. So like we knew we weren't going to be making huge sums of money, but we were just excited to be both working full time. And that's kind of when we were like, we don't know exactly how, but we definitely want to pay off those student loans quickly.
So it kind of struck you with the loan actually was the first thing you're like, and it's interesting that when people get a loan like that, or they see the number, they're like, oh, I guess I have to pay this off. But for you to flip on the switch, like, no, I'm not just going to pay this off. Yeah. Like, I'm going to attack this thing. What was it about that moment that made you say, we're not just going to pay this off over 10 years or 20 years? And like, people normally do, we're going to really be aggressive with it.
Well, I think a switch was flipped, but also another piece of this story that we're omitting, but I know we've shared before. The year of our wedding, Josh was laid off from like a very long-term employer. He was there for 7 years. And very quickly we were like, 2018 is our year. We're both full-time working. And then Josh gets laid off. And then like he got in a car accident and we totaled our car. And it was just like, in that moment from like that chaos, like that was the pivotal moment. That was like, we're $100K in debt. We have a wedding in 6 months. He just got laid off. We just totaled our car that we had like, financing on.
Well, and to like go back to your point too, of like what sparked us wanting to pay off debt. Like we were already super burned out the year before our wedding. And we started having those conversations of like, well, what do we want our lives to look like as a married couple? Right. And we were both working like 50, 60 hours a week. And we were like, well, like, is this our life for the next, this isn't it. And that's kind of when we were like, well, there has to be a better way. So we stumbled into like personal finance. We found Dave Ramsey, and I was like, oh, wow, like there's these people that are living life differently. Like it doesn't have to be this way. But the biggest barrier to us, like having something more like resembling what a life we want, is these student loans. So it's kind of like, if we get rid of them, then like we can have something better.
Right.
Got it. So maybe what were some specific tactics that you realized, okay, these are the things I need to do in order to pay off the debt and also to help design the life that you really wanted to live?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we knew pretty much right away, like our incomes were pretty much capped. Like we were both salaried at the time. So like we could work more, but we probably weren't going to work more or make more. We were both doing the side hustle thing, but we really didn't have the capacity to earn a whole lot more. So, and we were pretty burnt out, like doing the Dave Ramsey method and stuff. So we were kind of like, well, what else can we do that's going to give us, because ultimately it's not so much like just earn more or spend less, it's like grow the gap. Mm-hmm. So we're like, well, okay, well, we're doing everything we can on the income front. What can we cut out? And kind of like fortuitous timing was like right around end of 2017, Scott Trench's book Set for Life came out. Great. And that's when I discovered the power of house hacking. And again, it was like, all right, like we were living in an apartment that was like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath for like $1,300 a month. And like back of the envelope math, I was like, well, we could buy a house and like live in one unit and like rent out the other. And we'd never been landlords or anything, but I was like, that would lower our housing payment by half. So if we did that, that's like a $7,000 pay raise. And I was like, well, that makes sense because we'd have to work really hard to make $7,000 more per year after tax too. Right. So that's kind of when we were like, well, then we have to house hack.
Did you start driving did you ditch the car and start riding your bike to work?
Yeah.
Scott suggested. That's when I read the book too. So did Corey. Yeah. And that actually kind of sparked it for us as well. Or one of the stages. One of the books. And I got to that point. I'm like, dude, I love my car. I gotta ride my bike to work an hour on the highway. How am I gonna figure this out? But it's funny the concepts that go through it, and clearly it made an impact on both of us. So.
Yeah, no, it was huge. And conveniently, like Ali had alluded to, I demolished my car. So like I didn't have to go through the hard decision of like, do I get rid of it? Do I not? So we like at the end of 2017, we're like 2018 is our year. We're going to house hack. We're getting married that year. It's going to be a dope year. January of 2018, I get fired. Our income instantly goes back down to like half. But at that time we were like, I don't know how we're going to do it. We're still going to do everything. We're still going to get married. We're still going to buy the house hack. Like point A is where we were. C is where we were going to be. B was like a really wild ride.
Yeah.
Great. It's cool. I think it's all part of the journey. So, But fast forward to now, you've built this platform and you're at you put it on social media that you have a 70% savings rate. So you realized that your income was going to be capped at a certain point. And then you decided to play defense. Like we're going to have to cut back, maybe not forever, but the short-term sacrifices. So besides the house hack, can you dive in maybe some of these numbers and how you created that 70% savings rate? I mean, that's a lot.
So I know, with the house hack alone, we went from, as Josh alluded to, like $1,300 for our rent. Then we went to $600 and we had a tenant move and we raised rent and did some work. So then it's down to $300. Now we're in our second house hack and we're living for free, which is pretty cool. So right there, like housing costs are covered from cash flow from property one and just all of that stuff. In addition to that, as Josh said, he totaled his car, which was not so great, but we ended up buying a used car cash. So we have no car payments. No housing payments. Most of our food, like we cook and we buy groceries. We do still indulge in takeout and fun stuff like that. But I think a lot of it is because we cut down on those three big expenses. We're pretty intentional with our spending. We're not like extravagant, spendy people to begin with. But I think cutting down on those three biggies allowed us to really have that savings rate. Are there any technical pieces that I'm missing?
Yeah. Well, not so much technical, but we went on the defense, but what's a pretty cool, like synergistic relationship is once your operating costs go super low, opportunities kind of start presenting themselves. Whereas like if you were walking that financial tightrope, you're like, I can't take a chance on this because like if it doesn't work out, we're in trouble. Because we grew such a wide gap, and we were starting to really save a lot of money every single month, income generating opportunities really started to arise too. Like Ali was able to take a chance on a higher paying job and she got that. So that was like a steady increase. And then, I'm full-time self-employed, which was huge too, because again, once our operating costs, our cost of living went down so much, instead of having to take every single client, I was able to be a little bit more strategic and specifically go for things that I knew had the chance at generating higher income. And then they did. So plus now we have more rental income. So like it started really slow at first. And originally it was just like, all right, let's just cut our expenses as low as we reasonably can, find that point. And then we were like, okay, that's not so super sustainable, especially as like newlyweds, spend a little bit more. But then we really started to kind of go back to, growing that income.
It's funny. I just want to like point this out where a lot of people might hear this and that maybe they're not super into the FI movement yet. And they think like everyone that's frugal, I can't be that frugal. Like it's not cool to do that. What you guys are doing is actually the coolest thing you could potentially do. And it's if you can have the self-discipline and the self-control to subsidize your housing costs, get rid of the car or get a car, but it doesn't have to be a flashy one. And then you cook at home rather than going out every night and you're basically delaying gratification, as we said, but you're taking care of the three big pillars. Yep. It's absolutely incredible. And it's not as hard as it seems. Like on paper, it's hard. You're like, oh my God, I have to get rid of all these bills. Yeah. But if you work together as a team, I think it can take you to great heights. And you're an example of it. It hasn't been that long, right? Since this happened. It's been 2-3 years and you're already at this crazy trajectory. So I just think it's incredible. 70% savings rate is very, very high.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that 70% savings rate, because to somebody who doesn't understand what that does for you and the mental headspace that it actually frees up for you, it's like, okay, that's great. I don't want to save 70% of my money. Like that's what a lot of people are saying. And you don't have to, by the way. You guys are doing it to the extreme because you have a goal. And that's what I want to talk about. Like, what does the 70% savings rate give you? When do you think you'll realistically, and we talk about index funds and stuff like that, we'll get to talk about that, but when does that realistically give you the optionality to not have to work?
Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say too, like with that 70% savings rate and like what you said earlier, like I love that in terms of like delayed gratification, because I think we live in a society where it is instant gratification. If I want information, I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to search it on the internet and I get it in a second. And we're like that with our spending and our purchases and everything, because everything is so accessible and at our fingertips. And we live in a society that's like, yes, consume, take on more debt. It's so easy and I'll make it super easier for you.
And they do.
They do. And you see everyone around you doing it. So for me, more than Josh, it took such a mindset shift. You know, you have this idea of what your life is going to look like, the things that you're going to have. And then it's like, oh, wait, we're going to do this really different. We're still going to get the things we want, but we have to have that discipline first. So for us, it was kind of just like getting in that headspace. But that 70% savings rate, right, it's going to afford us a very different life. We're still going to get that single family house one day and all of these things that matter to us. But we're going to do it on our terms as opposed to our debt leading the way, us leading the way instead.
Yeah. And it kind of gives us a level of confidence that like we've never had. So like the power to save so much money every single month. If we want to invest a very large chunk of money, what used to take us, like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, now we can like do it in like 3 months. So like if we needed to shift gears, which 2020 was like the prime example of that. We have a level of flexibility now where instead of being like beholden to like, oh man, we need every single dollar, or like, especially me being self-employed, I need every single contract. Last year, I had a lot of opportunities come my way that I could have done and I would have made some money off of, but I was like, that doesn't really align with what we're really looking to do in the next handful of years. So in a way, like it gives you the power to say no, which most people they just don't have that ability to.
You talked about, I can sense some passion around the financial independence movement. So I want to ask why specifically you're so passionate about it. I know it's freed up your time, but it's also allowed you to do things that you want to do. We talked potentially investing in certain things. Like, what is your why? Like, what do you guys both want out of this movement and life? And like, why are you grinding so hard right now to put this life together?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think, when you look at us right now, like if you picture like the success and like that hockey stick with that exponential growth, we're still very much at the base of that. Like we are still like living in our house hack. We're driving really old used cars. Like we are not, by conventional standards, if someone looked at us, they would not be like, wow, you guys are living this sexy life, but we know that we're working hard now. For us, it's time, right? There's so many different commodities in the world, but time, you only get a finite amount of it. And for me, I'm like, this is the person that I chose, that I'm obsessed with, that I want to spend my time with, right? I really am like,
he's pretty cool.
He's cool. He's cool, right? Yeah. So we want that time with each other. We want to have kids one day. Our parents aren't getting younger. We want to be with family and friends. So for us, it's like, if we can put in hard work, and that means I can take a longer maternity leave, or we can go on a 3-month vacation and we don't have to worry about money, or if someone's sick, we can take care of them and not have to stress. It's really that time freedom for me. Like, I think for both of us, really.
Well, no, that's just it. And like the year before our wedding, like we were clashing a lot because our values weren't aligned, and neither one of us, maybe we both had whys, but our whys are going in different directions. But it's really, really hard when two people are pulling in opposite directions. So like we had real good conversations, and then we got clarity about like, what is it that we want really the most out of life? And it wasn't necessarily things. It was just like, we want more time together with the people that we love. And like, we want to travel all over the world and not necessarily be beholden to like an employer saying like, no,
you get 13 vacation days and that's it. So enjoy them. You know?
So again, it goes back to us being able to kind of like live our lives the way we designed it, as opposed to someone else saying like, this is how you have to live your life.
Right.
It's great. Let's get into a little bit of like I want to talk about creating that income gap, right? The investing portion of it. But before we do that, is there a certain way that you systematize, or maybe some sort of software program that you use to organize the way you save and invest, just so that somebody listening that's like, I want to do this, but I don't know how? Like, what's a way that you would suggest?
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is like, what gets measured gets managed. So I think for us, for a long time, head in the sand, we were just like, yeah, we're making enough money, but we weren't actually tracking it. And whether it's like with your money or calories or, like KPIs in a business kind of thing, like if you don't track those key metrics, like you're kind of flying blind. So we downloaded Personal Capital when we first started out. I should say too now, like, right now, it's kind of like intuitive. Like, I mean, I know what we spend, but like, we're pretty good.
When your cost of living is so low, you don't have to be as analytical with it, because the gap, again, is so wide, and our money is kind of placed into where it needs to be in those buckets. But in the beginning, it was definitely downloading Personal Capital. We had like the bank app on our phone, and it was literally like checking our spending, checking where it's going. Wow, we're spending a lot on this month. Let's recalibrate. Finance date nights, we'd order takeout and sit down and talk personal finance and go through our budget. And we do that with real estate too. We analyze properties together, and just trying to like make these things more fun and doing it together, so we're on the same page. So that's been important.
Yep. So I would just say like Personal Capital, bank statements, and then good old fashioned Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool. And by the way, I think that we should frame to people that like, this is, we always say personal finance is personal. I forget who says that, but like the thing is you don't have to save 70%.
No.
You can save, we've talked to people that's like, save 20% for sure. Like that should be the minimum. But if you save 30, 35, 40% in that range, you're going to get to where you want to go. Yeah. And you can still live the type of life or close to, the life that you want to live early on. So I think that you guys are going to be, you're going to be able to retire in your mid to early 30s, like early to mid 30s. And it's like pretty evident what you're doing, but the retirement is, it's not an age, it's a number. And that's what I think you guys have discovered. So to go off that, let's talk about your investing. Maybe start out with the index funds. If you could point out some of your strategies and what you do there, and maybe how much of your income or your savings you're actually deploying to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to go back to, so like right now, yes, we are saving 70 to 75% of our income every single month. That is not at all like going to be forever. We are we're excited.
You're so funny. I was literally thinking this, like 70 to 75% is crazy. Like that is not.
When you said it, I was like, I don't know how you do it.
It's like not a sustainable rate. And we always say like, it is a product of our circumstances. Yeah. We were 100K in the hole and like not making crazy salaries. So we were like, we need to make crazy changes if we want a different life. If you didn't have that level of debt, if you had more money saved, we had no money saved and we had crazy debt and we didn't have good salaries. So it's like, well, guess we're going to have to get real creative. So like 70%, probably not forever, definitely not forever, but
I don't want there to be like the perception, like we're not going to be like living in
like, I don't think everyone should have a 70% savings rate. We're just being psychos right now.
I didn't mean to pick on you. It's just like, when you say that, I'm like these, but you're so serious about it. It's like, you're so serious about getting out of the debt, and it's important to you. So
before we jump into the index funds, I just want to touch on this. How much debt do you have left on this 100K, or is it paid off? And then can you also touch on the strategy of paying down debt and investing, like where you siphon off how much each you deploy into either and then go into the investing?
So right now we're sitting on about 42,000. So
In student loans.
In student loans, yeah. So that's our last bit. So we started the December of 2018. We had 102,000. So 2019, I think we knocked out so we bought our first house in 2018. 2019, we were just like, because again, like we bought real estate not because we're like, oh, we want to be real estate investors. We were just like, we want to live for cheap so that we can pay off our student loans. So 2019 was not like, it was like, let's actually learn real estate, but really like, let's just bang out student loans. So I think we paid off like 53,000 in 2019. And that got us right down to just right around 50 or so. And then 2020, we like came out of the gates ripping and roaring and paying off debt. And then everything shut down. So then we just started hoarding cash because like we weren't really sure like what was going to happen. And we just kept saving and saving and saving. And then we ended up saying like, you know what, like interest rates are super low. Like, let's just buy another rental property. So we bought another rental property at the end of 2019, got that stabilized. And now we're back to paying off student loans.
But in terms of like how we approach debt payoff and investing, we kind of have the mindset, like we view it all as investing.
Yeah.
Like even if we're paying off debt, we're like investing in ourselves and we're putting ourselves in a better position versus real estate investing. But we've kind of been doing this cool cycling approach where we divide the year into quarters, and each quarter, like we have our own goals. So like for Q1, like it's like we want to be really heavy on student loan payments and pay like several thousand each month and like be very aggressive with that. And then once we get to like our desired goal of how much we wanted to pay, oh, we want to buy a rental property at the end of the year, let's shift that. And now our extra surplus money is being allocated towards saving up towards that property. So it's very like short-term sprints that we do, which I feel like is sustainable for us too, because like we have a goal, we reach it, okay, move on, next goal. So you're wearing a lot of hats at once and it's not always easy, but it's been working for us for now.
Yep.
It's very cool. That's very cool. I never thought of it like that because what like personally, I'm not gonna speak for Rye, but what I do is I have a certain amount of money that I put towards, well, I don't even count 401k. Like it's just, I don't even see it. Right. So 401k, but then a certain amount of money that I invest into the market. And then everything else that I don't save besides my emergency fund is going into real estate. Cause we're like, we love real estate. So, but I don't have like the 3-month thing. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's going to be hard for you guys when you pay this. This is funny to even say this way, but like when you pay off the debt and you have all this extra cash coming in, you're like, holy shit. Like, what do we do with this? This is amazing. Like we have so many opportunities because you don't have the other bills to worry about. Like
100%.
I think about paying out. I increased my car payment just so I trimmed it up by 6 months and I can just be done with it. Cause I don't want to think about it again, but I'm in the hole too much on it where it's like, I can't sell it now. Do the Scotch Trench thing. Like it's right. He and I did the same thing with like, you bought it new and you're too far in where it's not smart to sell it at this point. So I'm like, all right, well, that's a loss. I'll teach my kid not to do that. But it's funny how everyone has a different approach to it, but yours is awesome. And I just think it opens up so many doors for you. Now we can jump into the investing side. It's like, you're going to have all this surplus cash. Yeah. What do you want to do with it? And then where do index funds fall in your whole pie?
So our big thing is like, we want to buy more income with it. So like we started the year off, like Ali was saying, Q1 was like heavy debt paid off. We paid like 13,500 at the start of this year. So 2021. But now, and that's hard too, right? Cause like in the, previously like 2019, I think we're both at like 4.7% interest rate, which is like kind of like that gray area. And you're like, well, could you do better in the market? Definitely do better in real estate, but probably could do better in the market. Now that it's at 0% and interest rates are still kind of low, they're starting to creep up. Now we're just stashing cash again and probably like start or the end of the second quarter, start of the third quarter. We'll probably buy our third, we really like duplexes. There's a lot around here. So we'll probably buy another duplex. That'll give us all the cash flow that we need from rentals to pay our bills. And then after that, like it's just like index funds and paying off student loans. And then once student loans are gone, and we have the cash flow from our rentals to pay our bills, then, next year, Yeah. Well, next year we're definitely
I'm gonna feel like we have so much money. Like I know that we make like good salaries now, but I don't feel it. Like we don't have any lifestyle inflation. Like I joke, I'm like I still feel like a college kid
I mean,
sometimes.
there's the quote, like, make 80,000, live off 40,000, make 120,000, live off 40,000, make 160, live off 40. And then, okay, you make 250, you want to live off 100. Like, then you can kind of say, well, I've already have this muscle that's working. I've been working out. I've been trying to get this going. So it becomes easier to, when you are making way more money, you have all this rental income coming in, to say, I'll double my lifestyle now and it'll still be only half of what I bring in. Right?
Literally our plan.
Yeah, there you go. I just made that up right now, but I'm like, that's what I'm doing. Like,
like our goal in like 2022, we'd like to get like a very modest single family home, like nothing crazy. And I'm like, I'm going to feel so rich, like not living in an apartment anymore. Like it's going to be crazy. And I'm like, that's really not this wild dream. But for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a house.
But I would say, but the thing is like, so we started here as far as like lifestyle costs. So it's almost like we kind of had to like strip it down and like weed out and then like really get very clear about like, what do we value most? And then those things that we value most, we've been like trickling back into our lives. So like next year, I think it'll be like a really nice home. And I'm super excited because I know the metrics on it. And I'm like, we're going to have, it's like Monopoly. Like we'll have the little red houses or whatever over here. And then we'll move into the nice, starter home. But these rentals will pay for that, which is like still kind of like house hacking, because like our housing payment will be net zero. So we'll still have this very large gap. So we might buy more real estate. We don't really want like a huge portfolio because like it's kind of passive, but it's like, I love what you guys like do long distance, which I dig. We're kind of chickens with that kind of stuff. So
we just haven't gotten there. We're growing locally. We'll see.
Yeah. So
you got to build the team. It's not passive unless you really, really build the team. And even then you like, we're digging the holes now. Like we're laying the groundwork, right? It will definitely, the good thing about it is it does become more passive. Like as you move on, as you put the systems in. So you're totally right on that. But let's talk about the index funds. Like, maybe there's some that you specifically recommend, and also I'm just really curious on how much of that bucket that you take and put into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now it's only like $500 a month. It's really not that much because like we have like a really large sum of money every month. And most of that is it was going to student loans. It was like $4,000, $5,000 a month for student loans. But now that we kind of like turn that spigot off, if you will, now we're just shoveling that into our next deal fund, if you will. So, index funds, we're pretty basic. If you guys know J.L. Collins from The Simple Path to Wealth, he recommends VTSAX, which is really just like you become a shareholder in the entire United States economy. And so that's a bulk of our holdings. We don't really do like individual stock picking. Statistics say that's like a losing game. We like to do things that have humongously long track records of success in building wealth. So we just buy very boring index funds that are more than likely outperform like 90% of active traders. And then we buy like really basic duplexes that like meet certain metrics, but like nothing crazy or exotic. And then the thing is just funnel money into them consistently.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it monthly that you're putting money monthly into the index funds?
Yeah.
For now, with like how much we invest to the index funds, like it is so low. And again, that's the importance of like staying flexible where we are, you know, so like obviously once those loans are paid off, once we get to a point in our portfolio where we're more comfortable with that, I think our allocation is going to shift. We're going to be investing a lot more into the index funds and growing that. So again, like kind of how like we cycle through things like quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, it's like year one, year two, year three. And like we have these longer term goals. So down the road, I know that we do have certain like monetary goal numbers of like what our targets are for investing in index funds and what we'd like to see in our accounts.
Yeah, right now, we're definitely prioritizing real estate just because we get way better returns. Mm-hmm. And we're right now we need cash flow. Yeah. Index funds are super passive, but they're not entirely like cash flow heavy. They're more so oriented towards appreciation. So once our cash flow is in a situation where it's paying all or most of our bills, that checks that box. And then from there, we're just like dumping, and our student loans are gone. Yeah, we're just dumping a lot of money into the market.
So your index funds, do you have the 500 you put in a month? Is that through a Roth IRA or do you do it through a traditional brokerage account?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So I have a Roth IRA in my name. Ali has a pension through her job. So I actually don't really know how that pension fund is set up, but for my Roth, it's just what's VTI, which is the exchange traded fund version of VTSAX. And then I actually have a taxable brokerage too. And that taxable brokerage is pretty much just VTI as well. It's just broad-based index funds. And, you know, like the Roth IRA, I mean, it's great, especially for people who are like thinking like traditional retirement. But right now from like buckets, we're filling up real estate, we're filling up taxable brokerages. And then once those are filled up, because I mean, if we hit our goal, like we're semi-retired by like 33 and 34, we're going to need the passive income that you wouldn't necessarily get from like a traditional retirement account. So once we have all those filled up, then money is just, flowing into the the Roth IRA, but it's got like a $6,000 a year cap, and
right.
we want to invest a lot more than $6,000 a year.
Cool. And then one last thing. So we always talk about having a little nest egg, essentially, like specifically, I like to have 6 months to a year of just good and bad, right? People debate that all the time. Oh, you have a year's worth of salary or of your bills, expenses, sorry, in an account just sitting there, not investing. I'm like, well, I just need peace of mind to know I'm safe for a year. Do you guys have a number on that you do for a specific, maybe amount of months or an actual dollar amount?
Yeah. So right now we probably carry maybe like a 2-month emergency fund. And a lot of that is because, so like our income is 3.5 times our monthly expenses. So like, and it's 3.5 times our monthly expenses. And it's now pretty battle tested. Like, yeah, something could happen, like a pandemic, and that could kind of stress test. Yeah. But the fact that there's that 70% savings rate is inherently kind of like an economic moat. That gives us a big hedge of like, if something happens, like we're probably going to be okay.
I think it allows us to carry a smaller emergency fund so then we can delegate money into other areas. So we have a personal emergency fund as well as a rental emergency fund, and we keep those numbers relatively low because our gap is so wide. So like last month we had a $5,000 unexpected chimney repair. We're just going to reallocate our money for that month and it's going to be fine, And
like us, like 2.5 years ago, if like there was a 5,000 emergency, like we're in trouble. And now it's like, it sucked, but we're like, okay, like just pause and shift money over and then get back on track.
Right.
It's so funny that you say that because I felt the shift in my life too, as I start to buy real estate and bring in cash flow for myself. Yeah. And Ryan and I talk about like how we're going to close in a deal in May and how much money that we're going to have left over. And we looked at it and we're like, we'll have an X amount for each property. And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, in 1 month or 2 months, it'll be 50% more just based on like the income from W-2 jobs, the cash flow from our portfolio. Like this game's getting easier. Like after you get out of the mud, like it gets easier. So it's just like
the amount of money we start talking about now too was unfathomable a couple of years. We're throwing around like $50K. It might be, $60K on the renovation there. And I'm like, dude, $60,000 like 5 years ago, I'd be like, you can't even touch that. So
100%.
If you set yourself up the right way, you just get into the game. I just tell people get into the game, study. And then once you have your first deal or, like you've done enough research and you get in, then you can start playing. And these numbers don't seem as daunting because you see other people do it and you're the same age.
Yeah. If you guys have a chance. So Dion McNeely just did like an awesome episode over on the Bigger Pockets one. And what he calls like, a lot of times people talk about like the debt snowball, but a lot of times people don't necessarily talk about the income snowball. And it really does like start off pretty slow. You're like making whatever cash flow, maybe it's very minimum, but steadily like that cash flow like starts to build up. And then your savings account starts to build up and our jobs start to build up. And it's like what starts off as like kind of slow. You're not seeing anything. Right. If anything, you're losing money maybe because you have bills or whatever. Like it really starts picking up, especially when you start accumulating more properties. Our jobs started getting better. You start lose online businesses. You feel confident that like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it works, that's another stream of income. And those incomes start compounding.
It's really cool because real estate too, and that's what I want to talk about next with you guys. Real estate, not only does it compound, but Brandon Turner said they're like little oil wells, right? So
100%.
In 3 years from now, rent's going to continue to go up, and I have a fixed rate mortgage. And it's like, so not only keep buying more, do you create more income for yourself, but each one individually gains over time. So it's like literally a cheat code once you understand how to run the numbers and how to buy deals, which is one I want to talk to you guys about. And like your primary investing strategy is house hacking, right? So far. And so your current portfolio is 3 properties or 2?
2, and they're both duplexes.
Both duplexes. You lived in the first one, moved out. Now you live in the other one. What metrics do you look for when you are running these numbers to try to figure out whether or not it's a good house hack and just a good investment overall?
Yeah. So, I mean, our big thing is before we even get into like the metrics of it, and this is where like Ali's way better than I am, is more so like that gut feeling. Like if I wouldn't go to a house at 9:00, I'm probably not going to buy in that neighborhood. And if you buy in a decent neighborhood, if that gives you that feeling of like, this is a cool spot, tenants are going to feel the same way. So it's as old as time, but like location above all else.
Especially with house hacking, right? You want to feel safe. When we first started looking at properties, Josh was bringing me to houses where there were literal murders on that street. And this was like right before our wedding. And I'm like, why am I marrying this person? Like, he is crazy.
Like, he's going to murder me.
Like I'm going to die. I can't be a landlord.
And I had like the Excel sheets. I was like,
Ali, the numbers are so good. So
no,
it's a war zone. Cleveland deal. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've been in those areas in different cities, and like I think every investor has a different threshold of where they would and wouldn't buy, and some people make a killing in those areas, and not a killing as in like actually getting killed. They make a lot of money. They make a lot of money in those areas, but our risk tolerance is like, no, I don't care if a cash flow is $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month. Yeah. Right. We're not dealing with the tenants. We're not dealing with the inherent risk that comes along with a property that's probably not going to appreciate that much. We love the mix. So
if you don't want to go into your own property, it's kind of a problem.
It's funny because we started buying properties like maybe just below the areas that we would potentially live in. Like we could live in them if we had to, but now we're starting to buy in areas that we would live in. And what we're seeing is that the cash flow the cash flow dips a little bit, but the opportunity for appreciation and forced appreciation is just like, wow, you're going to create massive equity.
I do want to make a point there. People do make an absolute killing off those.
They do. I'm not saying not to do it. It's not for us.
It just isn't. We don't have that. I don't know. I guess we're the balls. Our skin's not that thick.
Yeah. It's just like, just how it is. So,
well, that's the thing. It's like, know who you are and know your temperament, because Josh was so stuck in the Excel sheet. And then we go on a house showing and this big guy opens the door for a showing and he slams the door in our face. And our realtor was like, oh, so you're going to collect rent from him every month? That's going to go well. And it's like, investing in real estate is not easy, right? Like there are challenges and you get stronger and it's amazing, but like, it's not easy. So what is your hard? Is your hard like, something breaks, I need to fix it, or like my tenants are giving me a heck of a time? Some people are cut out for it. Like we are investing where we're living, so we want to be comfortable. So number one metric for us that we always consider first, location. You can't change the location. So if it's a bad location, I don't care how amazing the property is. So that's the first thing we look for.
And then from there, price to rent is like a really, really big ratio. And like, you'll hear people talk about like the 1% rule. So in New York, we have like notoriously high taxes. If we only use 1%, we're probably cash flow negative or maybe at best neutral. So we do like to find something that has something like a 1.3 to 1.5% rent to price ratio, which is getting harder because prices are going up. But we're still hitting those metrics, which is pretty cool. We do like to see like $250, $300 a month cash flow after all operating expenses. And so we actually made a whole like post or whatever you would call it about this. So like we only use like the house hack we're in right now. We used 3.5% down FHA. We walked away with 17% equity. Like, we like equity, we just don't want to buy it. So we look for deals that we can find hidden value in, we can force appreciation to. So that's a really key metric for us, because we don't want to be over leveraged, especially when you start getting into like, top of markets. So we do look for that 20% equity. We just hustle for, as opposed to putting out cash.
I know it's pretty elementary, but can you talk about the rent to price ratio? Like, just if someone doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, no, great question. So for instance, our first property, we bought it for $155 and it rents for $2,275. So I think it's like a 1.47% price. So it'd be 2,275.
Sounds about right though.
Yeah, well, I had to memorize 1.467.
It's literally perfect.
Yeah. So we like that, because honestly, and it's kind of like a bell curve. If you go too far and you start hitting that like 2 to 3%, like, that's probably not a great area. But if you're sub 1%, like, those numbers can get pretty skinny real quick, especially if you have high taxes. So we like to try to aim for that like 1.3 to 1.5% rent to price ratio. And we don't always buy them like that. Like the first property, like Ali was saying, like, we bought it and it was very much under market, and we like that because we know we can work on that. Like, that's a problem we can easily solve with time. But yeah, that's rent to price ratio.
Cool. What are your favorite ways to force appreciation? I know you touched on that, and like we asked a couple in our last episode. There are like 3 main buckets that they like to drive home and just kind of increase the overall appreciation. So what do you guys use?
We haven't done anything super crazy in terms of renovations, but really we're finding properties that need some extra TLC. There's a lot of older homes in our area, so we're not buying like down to the studs, full gut rehabs, but we're buying properties where, with this one, we did a kitchen remodel, we did all new windows, we did new flooring. So some projects we can do ourselves. Sometimes we hire them out, but really just doing those value add things that we know will add that value back into the property.
And there's certain amenities too, like our market, we know tenants really like. So like every property we buy has off-street parking. Mm-hmm. Every property we buy, each unit has its own in-unit washer and dryer.
If it doesn't, we put it in. Yep. Dishwasher. Like they didn't have it, we added one. So yep. Just like those nice amenities that tenants like. And
then rent bumps too. So like a lot of times if we buy a property that's a little bit old, a little bit tired, and the rents are a little bit low, which right now there's a ton of landlords who have owned properties for a really long time. They haven't had to touch the rent in like 10 years because they're making hand over fist. We're like, all right, like those are problems we can solve.
Right.
It literally just happened to us.
Yeah.
We love this tenant, by the way. She's awesome, but she's Section 8. She gets housing authority assistance. And she hasn't had her rent raised in 8 years, and she knows it's coming. In fact, we sent her like a 40% increase. She was like, I know it. But the thing is we can only do it through the housing authority, like 3% a year.
Yep.
So Ryan and I the other day were like, dude, this guy just like, he's got a good tenant. Don't get me wrong. Like, you don't want to mess it up, but I'm like, it's $400 under market value. And like, we can only raise it 3% a year. So it's just like we
had to abide by the laws, it was interesting. Like we went and walked in the paper, the notice of rent increase. She was like, oh, I knew this was coming. No problem. Yeah. Signed it. But then, you bring it back to the housing authority and they're like, we have some issues with them, but they just like slap it. Nope, not accepted on the paper.
Stamped, mailed out.
So we call them. We're like, "What's the deal? Like, how come?" And they're like, you're making it too difficult for them to live." And we're like, "She signed the paper. She said it was cool." And then basically we had to go back and forth with them, and all they had to tell us was, "We'll only approve it if you bump it to 3%." We've been talking to them for 6 months. And we could have saved a bunch of paperwork if they just told us. We wouldn't even tried to bump it to $400 if they just told us it could be only $28. We're like, all right, well, we'll just do the $28. Like, we want to work through it because we love this tenant.
She's awesome. She wants to stay here forever.
She told us she would literally stay forever. Like, it's her home. So those are the tenants you want, and we don't want to kick her out. So
see, and what's really, that's like a perfect example. Like, think about like your jobs or our jobs. Like, we'd have to work really hard and like, we'd have to do a lot to make more income. Namely, we'd have to like spend more of our time. with real estate, like you control your income. And here it's like you guys, whatever the percentage breaks down to get you to market. And you're, in my mind, at least when I'm hearing that, I'm like, you guys have like cash in the bank. You just can't tap into it yet. And every single year you're going to be able to give yourself a pay bump, a 3% pay bump. And that's if she doesn't move. If she moves, and like you can just go straight to the top. So like you guys have like a pool of money, and every year 3% more, 3% more, your income is going to go up.
It's a very interesting way to put it. And I agree. It's like, and if you do that over a scale of 12, 15, 18, 20 properties, it's like you're crushing inflation. You're just 100%. It. So yeah, that's really cool.
And what's cool is that payment doesn't change.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is cool. Unless it's more. Oh, our payment. Yeah. Sorry. The mortgage. Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's why you buy early. Don't even get us started on that. We love that.
You're about to get us going.
I know.
I don't want to lose my train of thought. You said rent bump. So do you have a strategic plan that you're going to raise it every year, X%, and do your tenants maybe know this? I know you guys are a little early on in the stage of this, but it's a cool thought to like strategize.
So it's funny you say that because, when we first moved into our house, the apartment was well below market, but he was a great guy. He had 2 jobs. You never heard him. He was a really nice tenant, and he'd been there for 5 years. So we were like, we're new landlords. We're not rocking the boat. We're just going to keep him. And honestly, we probably would not have raised rent if he hadn't had opted to move out. He just moved. He got married. He wanted to move out. So right now, like we have folks above us. They've been here for a year. It's under market. But again, like they're great tenants. We're not going to raise rent. So really, I think for us, I'd rather have like quality people that aren't giving us tons of headaches and we get along with them well. And, if they want to be in our homes, that's amazing. But when they choose to pass on, then we'll raise rent. But again, we're still new at it. If we're doing this for a while and an apartment is at a certain amount, then we'd probably want to systematize what we're doing in terms of rent raises.
Josh will dissect this thing. I see him chugging along there. Look at that.
Like we never buy anything $400 below market.
Right.
Like our max we were probably like 175 below market on that first property. But I think like sometimes like a hidden cost of real estate is vacancy, and people grossly underestimate the cost of turnover. So for right now, like as 2 busy people, we are like super happy to get, have a buffer. Yeah, we could probably bump it up $100 or whatever. And maybe they don't move, maybe they do move. But it's also like, we could either bump that rent and, kind of risk it or whatever, or it's like there's a lot of other levers we can do to make up that money elsewhere. And then once we kind of build those little oil wells, if you will, and we bump that rent, even better.
Right.
So, but we like to have like a little hedge, especially if, markets get choppy.
Absolutely. How are you currently finding these deals? I think that's, now you only have a couple, but this is your story is like a simple path to wealth, really. Like it's just like consistently, maybe not every month, but you're consistently going to be purchasing. I don't know if there's a number that you want to get to, but how do you find these, the deals that you buy?
So we invest locally, and Josh is probably the most outgoing person that I know, and he loves networking. That's
why you married him.
It is because I'm definitely more of the introvert in the relationship. I'm an extroverted introvert, but Josh is an extroverted extrovert. So Josh is literally networking with everyone. He's on the social media groups. He's getting coffee with local realtors. He is, talking to investors. He's cold calling people on Facebook Marketplace. So like if there is someone that is like responsible for our steady off market deal flow, it's 100% Josh. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, right? So far we've only bought off market deals. We'll probably continue to buy off market deals just because we're not like the sexiest buyers. We're not the all cash, 50,000 over asking, waiving contingencies. No, we were the FHA
with concessions,
with inspection, the whole 9.
Right.
And we still close the deal. But because we just, instead of fishing where everyone else is fishing, we just we're our only competition. Mm-hmm. So that's how we find. But a lot of it, is just networking constantly and just putting ourselves out there and letting the world know what we're looking for and who we are.
So I'll say and you do know this very well, like real estate's a relationship game. We've had plenty of deals been brought to us just on Instagram and family, friends, mentors, etc. Like our next 2 deals, the one we close on and the one we're under contract for, and then one we potentially have later in the summer, off market deal. And it's amazing because people are like, oh, I can't get into real estate. These deals aren't out there. Every single person I've talked to has at least one of these deals. And it just proves that they're out there. You just have to put yourself out there. Josh, Corey and I were wondering who the brains behind, not the brains behind it, but we consistently see your Instagram handle everywhere. You're commenting on everything. You've established an awesome brand. Both of you have established an awesome brand for yourself, but I'd like you to dive the audience into that. You're at the Fi Couple on Instagram, and I believe almost everywhere else. Can you talk about the inception of the Instagram, why you created it, and then we'll kind of go down the rabbit hole of like how you've grown it to great heights?
So, as we've talked about our why, and it is literally just more time together, right? So for years, it was like, wouldn't it be cool if one of us got a job at the other person's employer so we could like work together? But it was always someone else in charge of that, right? Like he'd have to get a master's degree to work at my school or whatever that was. During the pandemic, Josh is a super like personal finance, like enthusiast times a million. So Josh is like, I want to start doing like money coaching. Like I want to start, whatever. And I was like, we should do it together. Like imagine like a couple doing like coaching together. And he literally,
he's like, nah.
He was like, Ali, like, you don't really care about the numbers. Like, why would you be involved in this? Like he totally trashed my idea. He's like, have you ever heard of 2 people coaching? Like that is ridiculous. Yeah. So I like, like cried myself to sleep. I'm like, it is what it is. It's not going to happen. It whatever. So, like, I don't think your money coaching really was very successful at all.
I was just another dude talking finance.
Yeah. So whatever. So, in the fall, and this is so funny, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, we should make a real estate personal finance Instagram. That's embarrassing, but that's literally what happened. And I woke him up at like 3 a.m. and I'm like, Josh, we need to do this and we can do mentoring and did all this stuff. And I don't know how I got your buy-in. How did I kind of?
It was 3 a.m. He's like, whatever.
Like I literally was like obsessed with it. And I'm like, we're going to do this. And this is like, I was super excited about it.
Well, and like she said, like we'd always wanted our thing. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, let's run with that. And we played around with a bunch of names or whatever. And I don't know how I think I came up with the Fi Couple, but we tried out a bunch and really, so like, there's a famous quote, like, be the change you want to see in the world. We didn't feel like, especially like, I mean, I consume an ungodly amount of like personal finance, but I was like, I'm not seeing a ton of people who we can relate to. Like, I'm not hearing our story necessarily. And I consume a lot.
Of like, you don't really make really high salaries. You have a lot of debt. You have really no experience in this and you're trying to figure it out. So like
a normal person, actually?
Like every
single human? Right. So for us, it was like, if it's possible for us, we want to share that with people, that it is possible for you too. And it's possible for totally normal, like regular people that aren't coming from real estate backgrounds. Like you can do it too. So the intention was like, let's share this. I somehow got your buy-in, but once I got your buy-in, he was like, holy shit, this is really cool. So it evolved so quickly. I mean, we made the Instagram in November and here we are at the end of March, and just really, really cool how fast it's grown.
You're just about 10K.
You might be at 10K by the time this episode airs. So
I'll check.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and it's honestly, it's like super fun, and like, full disclosure, like as I said, I've like been a huge fan, as you guys know, of like your guys' show for a long time. And so if it was, instead of just me on like my personal page, like commenting on stuff, it was cool to have like a different page by which I could go on your page and comment again.
And comment on your own comment. Answering your own question.
Some comments.
No, but that's really funny that you say that, because when you started following us in the beginning, I didn't have it wasn't synonymous with you and personal finance. Yeah. So I was like, this guy's really cool. He likes our stuff, but I don't have any way to associate myself with him. Right. And then when the Fi Couple came out, I was like, right, I think this is our boy Josh. I was like,
literally what he said.
Yeah,
this is our boy Josh.
This is our boy Josh. and like, you know, I felt like, oh, okay, he's in the space too. And then you guys are just like, boom, taking this thing to the moon. So I mean, by the way, your engagement's awesome. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you about next is like, how do you feel like you've built it to where it is now with no signs of slowing down in 7 months or 6 months or whatever? Less.
Yeah.
Wait, November?
Yeah.
Like 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's definitely not an accident. I think so. Like I had this idea, like I want to create this Instagram page, but like, it's funny because neither of us are like super social media people. Like I'm not like posting all the time and stuff like that. So I don't know why I thought that was
I don't know. I've seen those reels. Pretty good.
You
No,
got
but
a good
it's
system.
funny.
You have a good system though. You
It's
must.
funny though, like you should have seen us make our first reel because I was literally cringing. I'm like, this is so gross. This is not in my comfort zone right now. Like so uncomfortable. But again, like that fake it until you become it. Like, so it's like, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but we're going to push through. But with this social media, it is a full-time job, right? Because you are developing that brand identity and you're developing what is the message we want to share with others and how can we take really easy to absorb sound bites and send them to you so that you understand the message we're trying to say. But for us, as is everything that we're doing, it's all about relationship building. So for us, it has been connecting with other pages that share a common theme and message and connecting with followers that resonate with that. And Josh has done an amazing job at that.
Yeah. So, and
Mad
the
scientists tell us.
The thing is too, is like, so like I am like, when you understand KPIs, like key performance indicators, whatever you walk into, it's like, you know, a language. What levers do I pull to elicit a response that I'm looking for? And so what's crazy cool about like Instagram is they're like, here's your analytics. And it shows you like everything. And so at first it was just kind of like, all right, like, let's try this and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And so like, and I have a whole Excel sheet. I have 2 Excel sheets that show me like all my KPIs, how are things responding, so on and so forth. So we were
kind of like sloppy in the beginning though, because we didn't really know what we were doing. But then it's like, just like with your real estate stuff, like we moved in, we had a house, we didn't really have systems. Now it's like, you're running it like a business and you're running it intentionally because this is a time suck. So it's wanting to make sure that you're being intentional with your time. You know,
and by the way,
scroll.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
by the
fine.
way, it is a business. It will be. You will make money off Instagram. I promise you. My sister's like an influencer and she makes money off Instagram, like, and other platforms too. But like, you guys are growing your platform so fast that you'll have brand sponsored. There's things that will happen. So it will be a business. So you might as well treat it like that.
Or even if you just get thrown a couple of real estate deals and you find a partner. I know you potentially I don't know where you met this guy, that we can dive into that too later, but I want to talk about these levers that you're pulling. And if you're willing to share, I know you don't have to give all your secrets because I know people pay for this type of stuff, but like to go from a following of 0 to a community of just, let's call it 10,000 people in 5.5, 6 months. That's very quick. Coming from guys, we've done it for a year. We're almost about halfway.
Yeah. What
levers are we not pulling that you're pulling? I love that you do the data and you have Excel sheets. Like, you're treating it as an absolute business. And it's cool that you're both bought into it too, which we are too. And we have 3 people actually running our page. So it's like, what can we be doing to kind of join forces here and make this thing push off?
Yeah. So one, like everything that you're describing as far as like generating revenue, like new collaborations we never otherwise could have dreamed of, they're starting to happen already. And so like the Phi couple is, now like
it's now an income stream.
It's now an income stream, which then, so to like, I don't, because it's still so new, like I don't factor that into our savings rate. But if I did factor that savings rate, like the number is even higher.
71.8%.
Right. But it's another oil well, I would say like the biggest things are often like the simplest things is engagement. So you guys see it all the time, right? But pretty much between, full disclosure, between the hours of like 8 a.m. and 2:30 p.m., A lot of it's me.
I don't get cell reception at my job, so I literally can't be on the Phi couple while I'm at work.
After work, anything visual that you see, this one is like a mastermind. The cool thing.
So like we balance each other. So Josh, right. So you have these accounts that resonate with your message. It's not random. It's not accidental. We find accounts that resonate with our message, and you set up an alert so that anytime they make a new post, you get it. So Josh is then getting that alert on his phone. He's quickly logging in. He is the first comment on that post, sharing a value add comment, not just like cool meme, like that's awesome. He's adding value, and he's sharing a little tidbit about us. Like my wife and I had $100,000 in debt. We're using real estate to pursue financial freedom, because then that quality post, you are adding value to someone else's page. I think so often on Instagram, like we'll see a lot of messages or something like, hey, can you like promote me, or can you do this? But like, I've never talked to that person before. Right. So it's all about that relationship building. Like Josh is now adding value to another account's page. So you are now building a relationship with them. And then you can work through that together by maybe they would give us a shout out or something like that to help create organic growth. It's intentional, but it's organic, right? And
like verbatim, that is it. So like, it's like we go on pages, and whatever their message is, we try to first and foremost thank them, because we know like the behind the scenes time it takes to like create that, thank them, comment, and then show them how whatever it is that they shared, how it like relates to our life or how we've implemented something similar. And we do that every single day, many, many, many times a day. And so by doing so, and people see it, you guys see it, we see it. We've been able to have some really cool collaborations, and like we weren't just like showing up and saying like, hey, would you guys ever want to collaborate? It was like, hey Josh, hey Josh and Ali, we see you guys every single day. We really appreciate all your support, and obviously we'd love to find ways to collaborate.
So another thing that I think that has helped us with our growth is, putting ourselves out there, like Josh is saying, but like going on podcasts, and like we've had different podcasts, like, can you write a blog for us? And we'll do that. And I think just like the exposure within itself, it helps promote you to a wider audience. And then lastly, and this is something that I don't feel like I hear pages talk about a lot, because I think there's some negative stigma or taboo with it. But, there is the ability to do like a paid promotion with a page that resonates with you. And I think people don't talk about it, but I want to talk about it, because if you had a business, you would pay for marketing, right? So like, you would pay for business cards or a billboard or an article in a newspaper. I'm thinking really outdated, but like
TV, radio.
If you had a business, you would do advertising. So we're viewing this as a business. We're viewing this as an income stream we want to grow. So how would you get your message out there? It's not just, it's going to happen through the engagement, but it's also going to happen by potentially paying for different promotions so that more people can see your message. And then if your message resonates with them, they're going to follow you.
And what's great is like, it's literally just like an investment. Now like we have the KPIs of we can invest X amount, and as a byproduct of that, there's now revenue that comes from that.
I think there's a stigma with it, because I think people correlate like paid promotion to paying for followers, but they're very different things, and I think that's important to differentiate.
Because people, if you don't add value, like people aren't, because they're sharing your business on their page, right? So if you don't add value, they're going to be like, no, we're not going to promote that. And then when people do come to your page, you want to make sure that they come and they're able to connect with you.
I think those are very important messages, and we've battled this back and forth of like, do you pay to promote a post, right? And like, I don't know if that's directly what you're talking about, or if you're speaking to DMing someone and saying, hey, can we do a collab? And like, you pay to have one of your posts on their page or something like that, which are both one and the same at this point. Whereas some people, you're paying for friends, right? Like that's that kind of that mantra there that I think a lot of people can't get over. So we've gone through this a bunch of times, and like, we're trying to find that happy medium, right? And you also mentioned, Josh, that you're not just on Instagram. I believe you're on like Facebook, a bunch of other places too.
Yeah.
And like, so how did you create this thing? Like, I know you have this community, right? That's now built. How now are you leveraging that or monetizing it? Like you said, it is an income stream. Like where, and like, what's your plan?
100%.
So it's been really cool because we are on different platforms, right? We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Our Facebook has like 300 followers, so it's not really anything. It's more for like our family to see it. Yeah. It doesn't have Instagram. And then Instagram. But with the monetization, a big thing for us, right? Like we want to share this message that real estate investing and financial freedom is attainable to many. And a big reason why we wanted to start our page was because when we were first starting, we felt like we were on an island. We had no friends that were doing this. We were the crazy friends. And the whole time we were like, I wish we just had someone to like hold our hand and be like, you're doing the right thing. Yes. Like someone to just like run things through. So through the Fi Couple, we've been doing mentoring, and we offer, 60-minute video sessions, and we meet with people that are looking to pay down debt, looking to invest in real estate, all of these things. And we offer mentoring sessions to them. And we weren't sure the response that we were going to get, but we have connected with the coolest people that I'm like, if I'm in your area, I want to grab a beer with you because you're so cool. Yeah. So it's been fun. Like I would do it for free, but we're getting paid to do it, so that's really, really cool.
And what's cool too, guys, like the iceberg analogy, like you see what you see is not the bulk of it, right? So some of the opportunities and relationships and different things that are popping up now in our lives, like I have been the fangirl for years on all different types of pages and stuff like that. And genuinely like really grateful. Like that's a big reason why we are today. Because I was learning and I was posting in the forums and all kinds of stuff and connecting with people. And so now like a lot of that's kind of now starting to manifest today. But a lot of the stuff that we're able to do is relationships and seeds that we planted, 2 or 3 years ago.
But I think our plan is mentoring and then like some digital e-commerce and stuff. And I know we mentioned this before we started recording, but also just like your Instagram page immediately builds legitimacy.
Oh, yeah.
We have been doing this work for years, but we have friends and family that like really didn't care. And now they're like, wow, I see what you guys are doing. I want to go in on deals with you. And these are people that knew what we were doing before, but now that we're putting it so out there publicly, it is like that. I think Lauren and Kyle from Rentals to Wealth said this. Yeah, they're amazing. And I think Lauren said it is like a virtual resume. And she is so right. It is literally your virtual resume because we're an open book. We show you our numbers. We talk about it. We'll answer any questions. We're very transparent people. And that is a way to like get to know someone in 3 seconds by scrolling on a page. So it's cool.
We talked to them about private money lending in the deck that they put together. And they also include their Instagram now too, just so people can go like, okay, you have a community of 25,000 followers just about, but they have bigger pockets videos that walk people through like super intensive validation there for anyone. Like I would go in and deal with them, right? Because or I'd feel confident going on and deal with them because they know their stuff. And a lot of other people trust them too, clearly. So I like that. I never heard of it as a digital resume. I love that.
And now, opportunities like people are reaching out to us and they're like, hey, we see everything that you guys are doing. Would you be interested in, X, cool. Y, Z?
Isn't it weird now? One last thing before we get into the last segment of the show, but it's weird now to be, we were once behind the scenes too. And like, we're studying all these guys, like for us, Stealthy Rich, Coach Carson, those were our guys. And like, I remember being like a little like fanboy when we landed Stealthy Rich on our show. I'm like, Corey, dude, we got Stealthy on the show. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. He's like, who the hell are they? And I'm like, and then he's like, dude, we got Coach Carson. I'm like, wait, the guy we read his book? And he's like, yeah. And we just both lost our minds because those were our two people. And then as we talked about, like one person, like 6 degrees of separation, someone knows another person. They're like, hey, this show's great. Talk to these people. They know what they're talking about. Same with you. Like you met Lauren and Kyle. I'm sure it jumped you on another page. And then just your message gets out there and it's really cool. And people come to you for advice now. And it's weird that you have some sort of legitimacy because we've been through things where you almost feel like what do I like that imposter syndrome? Like, well, what do I have to offer? You actually have a lot. So I think this is just motivation for people that are listening. If you have an idea and you've thought about doing something, just do it, try it, because we're perfect examples of people that just decided to take the plunge. It felt weird. Our first podcast was we're like, what are we even doing? I didn't want to share certain information. Then we're like, who cares? And the same way with you guys too. And I believe you said you had all this knowledge and information that was just inside and you kind of built it into a business and it clearly has been working. So kudos to you both.
And I'll say this real quick. So like, sorry, like 90% of people won't do what you guys are doing or have done or what we're doing. Like people will know like I could, but there's like there's like that barrier of fear of what if and so on and so forth. So like there is such a small segment of people who make that leap. And then when you're on the other side of it, you're like, okay, like that wasn't so bad. And then you get better and then you get better and better and better. So like there is a huge segment of people out there who are like that close, but they just need a little extra oomph. And we've had, gosh, I don't know how, we've worked with people all over the country and they're like, they were there and they just needed a little like, you got this. And now they're doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
It's a great point.
The actually second to last segment of our show is called the Core Four.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask you 4 questions we ask all our guests. The first question is, what's your favorite business book or investing book? Maybe that helped you, get started in this game.
We are obsessed with Set for Life by Scott Trench. I think that was the first personal finance book that Josh was like, Ali, you need to read this. So that's awesome.
I would say like another one too is Atomic Habits and Traction. So once we learn to stop treating whether it be rentals or social media as just like hobbies and more so business, and understood levers and which ones elicited certain responses and which roles we were going to have, that really helped us take off.
Great. Cool. Second question is, so far, what's been your biggest mistake along your journey? And what have you learned from this mistake to capitalize?
Like biggest mistake in real estate or just like in general?
That's a good question. I mean, you guys are let's just talk about investing in general. And like if you want to go all the way back and do personal, like in your life, you can. But for us, I think it's more to share with audience members that like, hey, look, these guys went through something, then they overcame it, and I can do the same.
Yeah, biggest mistake. Let's stick with real estate.
Well, I wasn't going.
Oh, what do you got?
Just do one. Each do one.
Yeah. Like I was kind of thinking of this, and I feel like I've mentioned this before, but like I feel like I'm 30, Josh is turning 31 in a couple days. And I feel like for most of our 20s, we were not super intentional with our time, with our money. And we were just kind of like going through on the hamster wheel of life. And like, we had fun in our 20s, but we always talk about like, I wish we were more intentional. I wish that we were more mindful of our spending. I wish we had started this sooner. We are where we are and I have no regrets, but I feel like a big mistake was just, not being intentional. And then when we had this realization, there was so much fear of what if this doesn't work out? This is such a crazy leap. This is so different from the norm. If I could tell myself something, it would be like, just do it. Like, don't let that fear like prevent you from pursuing that.
And I would say for me, like I wasted a lot of money on cars, like a ton. And I grew up like really, really poor. So once I got that first like full-time job, I was like, well, what do you do now? You go buy out a brand new car. And that's what I would do. And then I'd be like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And then I would like go out and get a less new car, but still a new car. And I would just roll negative equity into negative equity. And eventually how I found Dave Ramsey, the car dealership was like, we can't give you a loan because we just can't do this. And the car finance guy was literally like, have you ever heard of Dave Ramsey? I was like, no, I didn't come here for a book. Like, just give me another car. And he's like, no. And he's like, I'm sorry, but
it's like perfect. Yeah. So a big thing of our story is like, you can make financial mistakes and you can still like find success. So we are definitely like, we share all of our financial mistakes and there have been some. So yeah.
Great. The third question of the Core Four is, who's your who for 2021? And who meaning by meeting this person, you feel like your business or life can be propelled to the next level. And if you don't have an answer on maybe who you would want to meet, maybe somebody that you have met who changed your life in the past year or so, or business.
Oof, that's good.
Hold on. Let me think for a second.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say, like we've met some really cool people. It's crazy that it's like March. This feels like it's been a year and 3 months right now. I would say the person that we're probably going to be doing like partnering with, I think can have a really, really transformative effect, not just on our ability to invest more rapidly, but there's someone who's incredibly, incredibly successful, has done it like the most boring way over the course of like 30 years and has like a really big portfolio with no debt against it. And he's like, yeah, I'll teach you guys some stuff. And so I'm really excited to spend more time with that person.
I have a different answer. My who is many people, and it's Instagram because, again, when we first started our investing journey, it was just Josh and I. We don't have a lot of friends in real life that are into this stuff. And I think that when you're in your own bubble and you don't have a community, you play it safe and you don't take risks and you kind of like don't really level up. And by creating the Instagram and connecting with investors all across the country, it has inherently forced us to level up in our actions and our mindset, because we are just connecting with so many people that truly inspire us. And we're like, wow, they're doing it. We can do it too. Yep. So like my who is definitely just like building that community and friends and people that get us on that level. And that, I think that has totally transformed our mindset in many ways.
Those are both strong points. I think, Ali, to yours, like Instagram and putting your message out there, it holds you not only to new heights, right? And it motivates you by seeing what other people do, but it holds you accountable.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking the talk, you better walk the walk.
Absolutely.
Who are you, right? Like no one's going to pay for your help.
Nope.
It's actually like out of their pocket if you're really not doing it.
Right.
It's really cool that you're sharing your story. Also, I'll say, Josh, to your point, this potential partner, I don't know if you inked the deal yet, but did you meet this person through networking on social media or just day-to-day life? Like, can you give a little background on it?
Yeah. So it's an older person, and I don't think they had social media.
It was in-person networking. Like through a work connection. Yeah.
It was through in-person. And we had kind of heard about him, and they said, hey, maybe you should go talk to this person. And so that's what we did. And I was like, wow, like one day I'd like to be that person kind of thing. And then I think they were like interested in learning more about us. And then once they created like their social media accounts and started learning more about us, they were like, yeah, we'd be happy to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You covered both buckets, like virtual and real life. Yeah. I know it's so weird that we're saying real life, but like in person versus on a platform, and you're covering both bases, which is awesome. And clearly it's working out. So kudos there. Last question, the core four, and this can be for both of you or separate, however you want to take it, but what do you want your legacy to be?
So my legacy, and this has always been my legacy, it's about relationships and the people that I love. Mm-hmm. So I have no aspirations to be like a famous person or like super wealthy or like, any of those things. It's okay if not tons of people know who I am. It's just like the impact that I have on my husband, my future children, my family, my best friends. So just having as much time with the people that I love.
Yeah. And I think for me, so like we don't really talk about this a whole lot, but we're very, very big into giving. It's like the second largest line item in our budget. And so as far as like a legacy, I would love to have a very large impact, not like in a front and center capacity, but like one day I would love for us to have a foundation through which we could really impact the lives of many, even if we're just kind of behind the scenes, because someone who came from nothing like myself, I know how impactful that was. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't. So for us, a big thing is like being able to give abundantly and help those who need it the most.
It's amazing.
Really, really cool.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. The last segment of our show is called The Last Drop. And you covered it a little bit, but knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back and do things differently? Or maybe you wouldn't change anything?
Honestly, like cheesy husband cop out, I would have listened to her a lot sooner. As far as a lot of the things,
points, baby, brownie
points. No, like it is brownie points, but it's so accurate.
There's been so many things I've been wrong about.
But I'm right, like consistently, like 98% of the time. I'll go on record and say it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, she's like notoriously right, and I'm like, well, no, there has to be a better way. And then I like end up coming back. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you were right.
I'm one of those right people that will rub it in your face too.
She is.
So
yeah, she's a sore winner.
Yin and yang. I like
that's why you make a good team. So it's excellent. But we really appreciate you guys coming on. I think that your story is inspiring, and like you said, it's a lot of people can follow it, and I think they do follow it, right? Yeah. So thanks for sharing it, and we're thrilled to have you on.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. If people, I know we mentioned it before, but if people want to connect with you, where can they find you on social media? Feel free to plug any brand, website, etc., because we want people to hear more of your story.
Yeah. So the FI Couple, FI Couple, we are pretty much on almost every social media platform. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We do have a website, www.theficouple.com. And yeah, you can connect with us we have a TikTok too.
We do.
It's really pitiful. We just use it to make some reels.
It's so hard.
We feel really old on TikTok.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. It was a pleasure having you both on. I love that just your partnership in general and like balancing each other out. It's working. So continue doing what you're doing. And for us, just thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's an honor. You guys have hands down one of my favorite shows. I love tuning in all the time. And it's a full circle moment to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That means a lot. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that really does mean a lot. We have our guy. We got our guy. Josh is on the show. Let's go.